and happy International Women's Day to all our viewers, wherever it is that you are watching us from. And tonight we are privileged to have here with us the Executive Director for the United Nations on Population and Development, which is a UN health agency, a day that women are advocating for balance, for better. My name is Purity Museo, and we are coming to you from KBC. Help me welcome our special guest today, Natalia Kanem. A very warm welcome to the program, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We really are happy to have you, and maybe you could start by telling us, what are you celebrating as a woman?
As women, for over 100 years on this date of the 8th of March, we've celebrated womanhood, we've celebrated girlhood, and in recent times, with the United Nations partners, UNFPA, UN Women, in fact, all UN agencies, because women's equality is so important for development. On Women's Day, we keep track of the progress that we've made. We admit that women are still facing many challenges ahead of us, but it's also a day for sisters to hold hands and to say we're going to nurture each other, we're going to praise each other, we are going to support that girl child so she knows the joy of being valued as a female human being.
Yeah.
So it's really exciting.
And what does balance for better mean for you? Because this year's theme is balance for better.
The Balance for Better theme is really, really important. We want women and girls to fulfill our full potential. That means that as a woman, every individual woman has her own dream. She has her own aspirations. The balance says that it's not all or nothing. You love your family, and women are very family focused. However, maybe a woman would like to have a business. Maybe she would like to be in a marketplace. Maybe she would like to teach. There has to be support in the home, hopefully by loving partners, hopefully by brothers and sisters that understand the space that women need in order to really shine. Balance for Better also speaks not just to the individual woman, but to men who also benefit when women do well.
Yeah.
When the family is strong, that young boy, that man, everybody is able to do their best. Moreover, when you're thinking about a place like Kenya with so many development issues that are being highlighted, this is a country with plans. And in order for the plans to succeed, women have to participate. They have to be part of the process right along. And so for a woman to enter the political process, for her to become active as a volunteer, that balance is very important between work, between family, between spiritual life. Whatever it is that she wants to prioritize, we have to give her the space to be able to succeed.
Yes, and as a woman, because you are, apart from being part of the UNFPA, what personally are you celebrating this day? What excites you this day?
Well, there are two things that really excite me. First of all, as a mother, I am very, very tuned in to the needs of young people. And I'm excited that for the first time, there's a generation, the Sustainable Development Goals generation, 1.8 billion strong, of young people who have gotten the idea that they can go as far as they want and the sky is the limit. I find that very exciting. And in my own life, I've been very dedicated to talking openly about problems that have to do with female problems, sexual and reproductive health. Of course, men also have sexual and reproductive health issues, but the sad truth is that women die silently from sexual and reproductive health issues, everything from menstrual periods onto delivering and childbirth safely. So I'm excited to be working with a team of fantastic, dedicated colleagues in 155 countries, including in Kenya, that are testing some great ideas as to how we're going to make the world a better place for women and girls.
Right. And this day was first celebrated more than 100 years ago. As we mark it this year, would you say, as a person, that we have made some strides globally, even in Africa, and even getting back to Kenya, where you are today? Would you say there's something that we should be priding ourselves in right now as women?
My answer is yes, absolutely yes. For example, International Women's Day, which UNFPA, celebrating in Kibera, was able to honor and award women from the community who did not stop with no. They are finding ways of doing things to uplift their community locally. Kenya is a shining example, and I would say the Kenya First Lady is a shining example of making the point of stopping women and girls from dying in pregnancy and childbirth. And we have made huge progress. Since 1994, which was the Cairo International Conference on Population and Development, death in childbirth has fallen almost by half. So women have to be proud of that. I also think that women want to control our own bodies and to be able to make decisions. For example, when to get married, and it should not be as a child, whether or not to be pregnant now, to wait, how often. Women have made huge progress in terms of contraception and being able to decide the pace of childbirth so we can invest in each and every child and treasure that child rather than being overwhelmed with childcare. I'll also say that Kenya is an example of a country with fantastic women CEOs. What we want to do is open that door so more young girls can be productively employed, to be respected in the workplace, fully respected, and also to have the support and the education and the ability for seed funding and things like this that make a difference. So yes, there has been progress. Of course, there's a lot more to be done, but today we're celebrating that we're not standing still, we're moving forward.
Right, but even as we move forward, as you say, there still is a gap. How do we address, what is this gap that the governments, let's say, or even the stakeholders should address moving forward so that even as we gather here next year, a time like this, then we would say somehow we are making better strides?
Well, let me just give you a couple of examples. While we have made progress in girls' education, and education is fundamental to everything we're talking about. If the girl child is ignorant, she can be exploited. She can be abused. She can be molested. She can be assaulted. These are things that are wrong. These are things that are very, very criminally wrong. But how can she defend herself if we don't give her the words and the language to even understand what is happening with her body? Now, from my perspective, while we have made great strides in girl-child education, the quality of education is something that, for example, here, the Ministry of Education is paying a lot of attention to. What are we having in the curriculum? How can we equip teachers better? And how can we make sure that the girl child is not burdened with having to do chores, fetch water, all of the things that really discriminate against her from an early age? We want to make rapid strides to change that.
Right.
I'm aware that the president of Kenya has declared that the time has come for female genital mutilation to come to an end. This is not only a form of violence against the girl child, it can have long-lasting lifetime effects on her ability to reproduce. So we have to work very sensitively with communities. We have to work so closely with community leaders who are looking for alternatives so that we embrace rites of passage, but we make it safe for that girl child to come through that ritual.
Right.
And I would also say that I am looking for Kenya to continue the tradition of women speaking out, taking part in local politics, in national politics. You have women ministers here. You have a lot of examples of people who are excelling in their professions. And the one profession where I believe Kenya is really to be applauded is the nurses and midwives who have given so much to make sure that communities do well. It's interesting to me that there are many young men now that are interested in the nursing and midwifery profession. It's something where not only do you give back to the community, but you're actually uplifting the economy, because good health is very important for our ability to build and develop and have the dividend and the bonus that comes from investing in people. So as UNFPA, we're very excited about the plans that Kenya has as part of your Big Four to improve universal health for everyone in every district, in every county. So we really look forward to a Kenya where the girl child is born. For the 9 months of pregnancy, her mother has been having good nutrition. The mother has been at peace. She delivers happily and safely. The girl child goes to school. The next thing we know, she's excelling. She's deciding, this is what I would like to do with my life. And everyone in that community is banding together to make sure that she is safe in her home from violence, safe in her community so that she can prosper. And all of the supports that she needs as she produces the next generation and the cycle of life continues into her old age, and she has a happy life. Now, this is something that I really wish for every woman on International Women's Day.
Yes, and from your assessment as the United Nations on population and development, how would you rate us as a country in terms of how are we taking care of our people, looking at development, population, and also reproductive rights to ensure their reproductive rights are taken care of? How would you rate Kenya?
Well, I have to tell you that Kenya has made big strides at a time when the world attention has been looking at Kenya. I rate Kenya highly because I, as a scientist, I'm looking at trends. Are things getting better or are they getting worse? Now, the ministries of government, the development partners, the private sector in Kenya, and so many young Kenyan entrepreneurs have understood that the path to development is for Kenyans to do it for themselves. And the rest of us are leaping in to help, because here you have leadership, you have a vision, you have a clear plan. And I would also say that there's so many hardworking Kenyans with the values that we treasure. You know, this is a society that respects its elders. This is a society which I hope will clear a path so that girl children are not subjected to the wrong type of attention that detours them from their path. When we look at the statistics of how Kenya is doing, for example, death in pregnancy, it's getting better. When we look at the statistics as to how many women in Kenya can access family planning of their choice close to where they live, we're now at 60%. This is a dramatic change. I also, as I mentioned earlier, think that we need to understand, can Kenyan women speak up and say what's on their minds? So the political participation of Kenyan women is also increasing. These are all good signs, but you know, we don't want to be overly rosy, because the world sometimes is not a fair place. Sometimes you really have to defend the rights of women and girls to be able to have fully equal development as a man. And this is a place where everywhere in the world we're lagging. And I think that sexual harassment, especially on your job, or even a schoolgirl on a bus going to school, this is a time where we need young men to stick up for us as women.
Right.
And to be able to say, no, 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 this is wrong, and interrupt injustice where it's happening. We still have a ways to go, and I think Kenyan society is figuring out how to engage with this. But I would have to repeat that I would rate Kenya very highly.
Okay, we highly appreciate and actually thank you for choosing Kenya to be as a destination on this day that women are celebrating.
Absolutely.
The International Women's Day. But other than this day, yes, you've joined us here as we mark this day. What else brings you to Kenya?
I am in Kenya because of the excitement that the world community is feeling globally, because Kenya has stepped up and will host the 25th International Conference on Population and Development in November, and it will be opened by none other than the head of state, who is also the champion for youth in Africa. This World Conference on Population and Development will continue the themes that were set 25 years ago in Cairo, that say that development is really woman-centered, that when a woman progresses, the family, the community, the nation progresses. So we are expecting young people to take the lead on setting the tone for the agenda in the Nairobi Summit, accelerating the promise of ICPD at 25 years. ICPD was the International Conference on Population and Development, and I've met young people in Latin America, in Samoa and Fiji in the Pacific, where I was last week, in Cairo, who want to carry a torch, and they're saying all roads lead to Nairobi. We're going to talk about sexual and reproductive health. We're going to talk about what young people need to be equipped to compete in the next 25 years. We're going to talk about data. It's very important to be able to track what's going on. Otherwise, people, for example, people with disabilities can disappear. We don't see them because we don't ask the questions. And so this conference will be a moment of unity where Kenya will be in the spotlight as so many of us converge on this beautiful city here in Nairobi to say that we want the women's movement to go forward. We want sexual and reproductive health to be a space of safety and protection and security for women and girls and boys and men. And furthermore, that as a united world community, we will uphold these principles of equality and make sure that, in fact, as you were talking about, balance and a better world, that young people too will be able to add their views into this equation.
Right. You've mentioned the Cairo Declaration 25 years ago. What would you say is the significance of that particular declaration for both globally and for Africa in particular?
Well, you know, the Cairo Declaration was a beautiful thing. We call it the Program of Action on ICPD. There were 179 member nations of the United Nations on that date, and it was unanimous. They spoke as one voice, saying the following things. One, that development should center on women and women's needs. When you lift up a woman, that the whole community will progress. It also said that you cannot look at sexual and reproductive health by itself, and we see that now with the Sustainable Development Goals. The blue economy that Kenya is talking about is going to benefit families and communities, and women should be fully part of that. The concept of having all of the things that I was talking about in terms of full respect, development of the girl child, the Cairo conference also linked that to the environment, to decent work, to productivity, and to peace, which is the noble purpose of the United Nations. Furthermore, and this is so important for Kenya to understand, because Kenya is one of the youngest countries on earth. You have beautiful young people, but sometimes the prospects for what am I going to do with my life? Where am I going to be employed? How am I going to really contribute to society, but also fulfill my individual gifts? This can get lost if we don't focus on equipping young people. Education's so fundamental, but also in Cairo, what we said very clearly is that population is not about numbers, it's about people. So there's a worry as the population increases, if we don't give women the opportunity to take charge of their own fertility, their own childbirth, their own decisions. Many women who are not ready to be mothers because they're children themselves, in fact, they're not women, will be pregnant too young. They're not going to be able to nurture that family in the way that would be, that we would want. And of course, they're at high risk for dying themselves. Furthermore, as we look at population numbers, I see young people as a strength, as an asset, as a solution to some of the development problems that Kenya has. If we're talking about pollution and sustainable development, well, young people are the ones that are going to be recycling. They're the ones that are going to create the type of understanding of how do we make products that respect the environment and keep our seas safe and make sure that we don't have waste and plastics and things. You know how Kenya has now decided that plastic bags are not good for the land and that you're not doing that anymore. This takes a vision of where are we going together. So in Cairo, the conversation that connected the environment, women's health, sexual and reproductive rights, and women's rights, because Beijing followed Cairo by 1 year. These all came together, and it upheld the idea that women are not second-class citizens. We really have done a fantastic job of looking after the family, but now society is sick and needs our help. The only way we can do that is to be united in defending the rights of women to be able to live productive, safe, and securely.
And still, as part of your agenda, come November, are we looking forward to yet another declaration, or what new are we going to see in the Nairobi summit, and who are we expecting to jet into the country?
In November, on the 12th to 15th, in fact, before and after, because, you know, this is one of the benefits of involving young people, and they're setting the tone for this conference. And I'll tell you a few of the things that they're interested in. And people are coming from every corner of the world to discuss this in an environment of debate, but also of unity. Because the idea is not so much even to look backward at the last 25 years, but to plan for that future, that we're building a road to the next 25 years. And young people, as you know, are really smart. They have every ability to lead if we open the door and ask them to do so. And I've been amazed at some of the things that are coming up.
Right.
Like, for example, how do we pay for what we need? So new ways of financing and delivering on this agenda of sexual and reproductive health and rights, on the agenda of young people fulfilling their potential, ending death in childbirth, not having violence domestically, oppressing women. They're saying, look, you know, we have to figure out how we're going to pay for this. We want to have conversations about how is the structure of our economy going to change so that 25 years from now, life is affordable, but also sustainable, environmentally sustainable. But I think they're also interested in the creativity of being able to work, but then also to play. This is part of the work balance. So I think the way they're designing the conference, it's not going to be a boring type of normal convening. They're almost going to be play spaces, spaces where you can live and see through the eyes of people that are affected. One other aspect, which I'll mention briefly, is that young people are concerned about justice. And when we think about refugees and people that are displaced or people that are in remote communities that really don't have access to modern life in the sense of, you know, the niceties and the internet and things like that, the young people would like to discuss the sexual and reproductive and pregnancy and health rights of people in marginalized communities.
Right.
So we'll be having discussions about a girl who needs sanitary supplies in order to be able to go to school and not feel ashamed to be there during her period.
Right.
These are things that have to come out of the shadows, and we have to open the curtain and discuss. And Kenya is a hub for innovation. So I think we're going to see some new ideas that the world has never seen before. That's why I want to be there,
Right.
and I hope that you'll join us.
I will join you. I will really join you. In 30 seconds, because we are winding up, Natalia, Kenya will be conducting its census this September. As an organization or agency that deals with development and population, how would you advise us as a country to use these numbers to impact the lives, especially of young people?
Great question, and I have to say that UNFPA is very proud to work very closely with the planning part of the Ministry of the Treasury in a leap forward in using new technology in order to be able to do the census electronically for the first time this year.
Right.
So we're using the power of computers and also the ability to train trusted individuals who will do the interviews in the language of the community that we are surveying. And we will be going to every corner of Kenya to make sure that everyone is counted and no one is left behind.
Right.
For me, young people need to be aware that in order to be successful, you have to plan. And in order to plan, you have to be able to know where people are and what the needs are. That's what the census questions will be doing, and the analysis that UNFPA will do together with government on diagnosing and identifying needs of communities is going to be a rich source of understanding how we can fix problems, but also where we have strong solutions that we can share with the rest of the country.
Right.
So good luck with your Census 2019.
Thank you so much, and thank you for even coming in and trying to help, achieve the agenda, especially in using the numbers to help the young people. Because of time, we have to wind up. But thank you so much for your time.
Happy International Women's Day.
Happy International Women's Day, and karibu sana Kenya.
Asante
Karibu
sana.
sana Kenya. And that's it. Happy International Women's Day to all of viewers. My name is Purity Museo. Good night and God bless.